I'm Kaveh Wahidipur. I'm a senior software architect with ArangoDB, and I'd like to welcome you to our 19th lunch break in the Graph and Beyond series titled Hot Backup and Restore. So what is so special about hot backups and restores? Usually when we talk about backups and restores within a database operation, we think of creating full copies of entities such as databases and collections and transporting them outside of the installation. This, of course, takes time, and the programs that are related to this operation, to this kind of creating of backups and restores, are ArangoDump and ArangoRestore in the ArangoDB ecosphere. Hot backups and restores don't create external copies to a cluster, for instance, but they are really a snapshot of everything. And this means also that you can't just create a snapshot of a database or a collection or a single user or something like that. You are here literally freezing the entire ArangoDB cluster into a momentary snapshot to revert to at any later time in near instantaneous fashion, both the creation as well as the restore. There is additionally, there's a nice upload and download feature embedded in the Enterprise Edition, which gives you access to literally every cloud infrastructure out there. The program in the ecosphere is called Arango Backup, and we will do some hands-on with that functionality. Okay, so what are the goodies? As I just mentioned, these things happen very, very quickly. So you don't have to calculate any downtime. The hot backups that you create, if you don't enforce not checking the consistency, touch upon that a little later, why you would want to do that under circumstances, needs to these backups are completely consistent. Okay. So what are the goodies? For one, these backups are created in zero downtime. They are consistent unless you enforce timely creation of such a hot backup without paying attention to consistency. This could have good reasons, and I will talk about that a little later. They happen in place, that is, you're not generating some external data, and they are awesome for doing things like fast disaster recovery. And as I mentioned earlier, as this is a snapshot and it's not selective, you're freezing your entire operation. This can be a good thing, but when you think about how a complete snapshot could be a limitation, is that you don't get any granularity over the restore process. So if you're trying to revert to a snapshot of 2 hours earlier and you've created a database in the meantime and put some data in there, that data and that database will be gone. Again, the full operation is snapshotted and restored. This is the global scope, so to say, that we are freezing. This also means that because we are trying to get a global consistency, we need to have some sort of a locking mechanism that might be experienced on the user side. What I mean by that is that the only mechanism to create a consistent situation is to stop all write transactions into the database. This is done by means of a trick. We introduce a transaction, a global transaction that really locks any write access to the entire operation. And these locks cannot be gotten at any given time. If you have right now a, 2-minute running transaction on a part of your cluster, we will over and over, without knowing where your transaction is headed, try to acquire a global lock for longer periods until we are successful. If 2 minutes passed and we haven't been able to obtain that lock, the regular Arango backup command will time out. You are free to prolong that timeout until such time that you are successful, but the default time is 2 minutes. You are also free to decide that you don't want to have the consistency, as I just mentioned, and force just getting a snapshot as soon as possible. This could be maybe a good idea when you know that something is going on, that you would like to at least save as much as possible before it breaks things down the road, and you desperately want to create that inconsistent snapshot. You can enforce that. The other aspect that is a little bit of a hassle is that you cannot take a snapshot that you took with a further advanced ArangoDB version and apply it to an older cluster. So you got some limitations there. The other aspect is that you cannot take a snapshot that was created with 5 database servers and apply it to a cluster that has 6 database servers or 4 database servers. You have to have the same kind of data topology between the cluster you created the snapshot with and the one you would like to play it back to. This is, of course, it is completely free for you to, for example, create a cluster of the proper site, to import the snapshot, and then go ahead and advance that, expand or diminish that cluster by 1 or 2 or 10 database servers. The last aspect that you need to keep in mind is that, let's say you have this long-running installation, you've got to understand the disk usage. You might have to re-evaluate that, as creating many snapshots might lead to higher storage space usage. So this is something that you should keep an eye on if you've been good and with your current cluster, because these things can take a whole lot of space. The way this is done is on the file system level. We hold on to files that would have otherwise down the road be compacted and altered and vice versa, and keep them as they are using hard links. And every time, as long as any backup is still pointing to those files, they're going to be retained. And by that, your disk space usage will grow. Okay, so how is it done? There is always the Arango backup command at your service. The Arango backup command takes one keyword, create, delete, upload, download, list, restore, with which you do all sorts of different operations on these snapshots, like in this case, create one. If you look at the HTTP, at the REST API, there is this admin backup route where the commands that you use with the Arango backup command line are suffixes in the HTTP API. This would be, I will come to the demo in a moment. This would be, for example, the creation. The list command would give you, for example, all the existing Arango backup sets. And for example, the restore would look like that. Let's go ahead and actually try some of those. So I have set up here a cluster in our lab in the office. And I believe, before I get there, you will find on our website, when you Google ArangoDB and backup and restore, you will eventually end on this page where hot backups are discussed further down. Anything that I'm mentioning right now, you will find in more or less detail here. And just go back and refer to the documentation. I actually like our documentation a lot. I think it's this part is particularly good. If you have any good ideas how to expand on this, of course, you're very welcome to make suggestions. Anyway, let's go to the cluster that I have here. App servers is called C11. The cluster is installed on C11 through C13. I'm a little under the weather, so I apologize. My voice and Root and the password that I took for this one is hot backup. Not very clever. All right, I don't need this saved. Okay, let's see what we got here. I've already created a database foo. In that database foo, there should be a collection bar with 10,000 documents. So let's see, collections. Yeah, there's actually a little more than that. But this one's got 20,000 documents. I did 2 inserts apparently, and some other collections that are not there is no data in them, but they're just lingering around there. Now, let's go ahead and create a hot backup. So this is my my machine at home. I can just say Rango backup and server.endpoint and SSL C11 server.username is root. I don't know if this is obstructing your view. I'm just going to put it aside and make this window a little smaller. Server.password, as I said, is hot backup. And I can just say create. And by that, I have created a snapshot. This takes roughly about 2 to 3 seconds. Again, from the user's experience perspective, if everything goes fine and there are no long-running transactions to compete with, these are hardly measurable on the user experience side. Okay, so we've got a backup of so and so many bytes and 70 files. And if I do a list, I have already done a few hot backups so far. We will see a bigger list. And this is the one that I just created. So this is 14:56:57 on the 20th of September, Central European time. Is that right? No, actually, this is UTC. And I could, of course, create a hot backup with provide a label, in which case this UUID part at the end is replaced by your label, and the timestamp comes in front of it. So let's say I just call this lunch session. I'm sure that I cannot just use it like that. And okay, oops, this was the list. Let's, I'm sorry, I should have written create here. And we just get another hot backup. And if I do the list again, we should see this last one. If I wanted to restore to this, before I maybe do that, let's go ahead and drop the collection with the entire database. Let's go to the system database and just drop the database foo, and then go ahead, and then we will go ahead and restore everything real quick and see how smoothly that goes. Okay, delete. Yes, I would like to get rid of this one. And is it done? Yeah, it's just a network glitch. Right. I can go back here and say restore and use the identifier that we just got from this listing. And as you can appreciate, this takes what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 seconds to restore back to that last snapshot. Now, this will not take longer if the difference would have been terabytes or something. This is really the time that we were just witnessing was just getting all the links set and restart of the DB servers within their PID. So the DB servers don't really restart as and get it to a new PID, but they are just internally, in a sense, gracefully restarted and loading a fresh set of data. So if I go back to my UI and get here, yeah, the foo database is back. I can choose to move in there and check if we also have the data in the collection bar. Yes, we do. 20,000 documents as expected. All right, so this is how this works. Let's actually do a go back to the slides and see what else we've got. Integrated into the Enterprise Edition is this fantastic tool, rclone. You will find the full documentation of rclone on rclone.org. rclone is just a great tool to push data back and forth between all sorts of cloud storage solutions. This is all the commercial solutions out there that you could think of, but of course, local mounts of, say, cloud storage or WebDAV in Apache and vice versa. So these two examples would be, for example, a description for an S3 target and a description for a local target. The local is, I believe, fairly easy to understand, as is the S3. Anybody who's ever done anything with cloud storage will immediately recognize these parameters. So how do you use that? Well, you have such a JSON, you just save it to a file. In the case that I'm going to be showing to you, I've put all of that into the file rclone.conf. And yeah, let's go back to the shell and see how easy it is to upload, for example, this specific snapshot to the cloud. So I'm just saying upload server.endpoint is, actually, let's take the list command and expand on that. Just remove the list, upload. And now we would like to say -- identifier. This one. We further need to specify where the configuration file is located. Config-file is rclone.conf, and I need to specify a remote path. Now, the remote path is consists of this name up front. Now, this has nothing to do with the functionality S3. This just happens to be the stupid name that I chose for it so that it's undistinguishable. This could be called Mickey Mouse for all I care. And so you take this : / and then specify the remote path. So S3 / last session, for example. And there we go. This takes a little while. I can check on the status of this thing by just getting rid of all the parts that are necessary for this upload, and just query the progress like this. As you can see, one of the database servers is finishing more quickly, has also less files to upload, and they're all started. The first one is completed, and the other two will finish in a moment too. Yeah, so this is all done. Of course, I could do a delete. I could accidentally maybe, or on purpose, to free up local disk space, delete this. So let's just use the list command again. Reuse, say delete, -- identifier is this one, by which, oh, what happened? Identifier. And yeah, sure thing. It will be gone by now. So where's my list command? Yeah, it's gone. But then using the same upload command that I did earlier to upload the whole thing, I can just replace this with a download, and it will start, of course, re-downloading that from the cloud. Of course, I can do a status check on this likewise. So by just removing all the stuff at the back leaving only the status ID of the job. Yeah, it's already completed. The download was much quicker, and yeah, and I could, of course, having destroyed. Well, actually, I have not, but I could, of course, go ahead and delete everything again and show you that the restore would work. But I think that's obvious. Yeah, that's pretty much wraps up the whole functionality. Please go to the documentation if you're interested in this feature. I think it's a very, very powerful tool for database administrators to make sure that you have a very cheap and close snapshot of your operation by just creating these backups, maybe in high frequency, in a sense that you could, for example, keep hot backups of the last day for every 2 hours, then maybe of every day at, I don't know, 12 a.m. or so for the last 7 days. And you get the idea, so that keeping the space concerns locally at inside a certain limit, but at the same time being able to very quickly respond to a catastrophic case. Anyway, I have one final thing to say. In October 18th to 22nd, we are having our first developer conference, and you will find all the information on this landing page on this slide. Also, please keep in mind that if you're interested in any of the open sessions, you have to sign up for those probably fairly soon, as those slots are limited, and I'm sure they will be gone very quickly. With that, thank you again for your attention, for sparing the time for us, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye and have a good day.